Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had Primal Instinct Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see Part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story, LazyAnimaniac from Wattpad. So let's start the video. His whole life, Izuku had been told that he was powerless. Midoriya Izuku, a resident in the 𝗵𝗃 district of Japan, was a part of the 20% of the population that was quirkless, meaning they didn't have a superpower. His whole life, he had been bullied, ridiculed, and demeaned. At the age of 4, when Izuku came back from the quirk doctor to tell his best friend 𝗵𝗃𝗲 Katsuki, nicknamed Kaken, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 exploded with anger. And not out of sympathy for his friend's misfortune. No, he was disappointed with himself for ever being nice to a useless, quirkless piece of trash. So all through elementary school, Izuku was pointed at, laughed at, and was talked dirty about. Middle school came, and 𝗵𝗃𝗲 and his gang became more violent and physical with their attacks. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 wasn't afraid to use his explosion quirk to get what he wanted, and everyone in the school was scared of the bully and his powerful quirk. And forget about the teachers standing up for Izuku, because what's the point in sticking up for a powerless, useless human? But Izuku always wanted to be a hero. He watched videos of heroes defeating villains, he took notes, he fanboyed. And he never gave up on his dream, no matter how many times he was told it was impossible. But his whole life changed with the words from his idol and the #1 hero, All Might. Izuku walks down the road to his house, looking over his journals. Man, Kaken really did a number on them. Huh, I have found the perfect disguise. A slime villain suddenly appears, and Izuku startles. Millions of thoughts cram in his brain, but there's one main one run. Izuku scrambles to get away, but the villain grabs him and starts to absorb Izuku, drowning his body in green sludge. You are the perfect vessel, 𝗧𝗓𝗧𝗏. Struggling, Izuku tries to remain conscious, but is quickly losing strength and his vision becomes dark. Damn it, Izuku thinks. If only I had a quirk, Texas Smash. Suddenly massive amounts of air pressure hits him, and the slime villain is blown away from Izuku. I am here. All Might shouts. All Might. Izuku screams, his inner fanboy being unleashed. I'm such a huge fan. Please sign my notebook, Izuku stutters, holding out his notebook. Ha. Of course, young man. All Might scribbles away his signature and hands it back to Izuku, who is squealing and jumping around. Now I must go, for evil never rests. All Might turns, when suddenly Izuku stops him. Wait, All Might, please, I have an important question. My time limit is running out, but I must answer this young man's question quickly. Yes. All Might boomed. Izuku looked up at All Might with determination and hope filled in his eyes. Can I become a hero, even if I'm quirkless? Young man, I'm sorry, but you cannot. You would only get in the way, and your quirklessness would make you a liability. If you cannot protect yourself, then you cannot protect others. Izuku's heart lurched. He knew that All Might was right, and that was the reality he lived in. If you want to help people, become a police officer or something. Now, young man, I must go. 𝗔𝗪𝗍𝗵𝗍. All Might leapt away into the distance, leaving a broken Izuku standing there. All Might is right, Izuku thought. I know that. A tear slipped down Izuku's cheek, then another, and then tears started pouring. Izuku dropped to his knees, not even bothering to wipe away his tear-stained face. He looked at his hands with his dull, lifeless eyes. I will train away the tears. I will train away the sadness. I will not cry again. Izuku vowed to himself. I will become better than anyone ever thought I could be. I'll show Katsuki that I am not just a Deku. I'll show All Might that I'm not just a quirkless dreamer boy. Izuku thought. Looking to the sky, Izuku vowed to himself, I will make an impact on this world. I will make this body of mine into something that will represent everything that ever happened to me, the bullying, the countless rejections, the beating and taunting and all of it. And with this resolution, Izuku marched back to his house. Izuku dropped out of school and instead took extremely advanced college courses online. His intellect was already impressive before, with an IQ of 134, but he promised himself he would be better. He began doing 30 squats, push-ups, leg lifts, arm lifts and other exercises, along with 30 minutes running on the treadmill. He increased to 60 reps, then 100 reps, until he was not even 1 month into his training and he was doing 200 reps. Slowly, over the course of a year, Izuku's results were beginning to show. At 6 months, he had a muscular build with six-pack abs. His hair grew long as he never left his house and seldom left his basement, where he spent most of his days. He not only trained his intellect and body, but also meditated and hardened his emotions. He trained with swords, nunchucks, bow staffs and a bow and arrow, teaching himself how to use the weapons, and eventually had incredible techniques in not only swordsmanship and marksmanship, but also in martial arts such as taekwondo, karate, Krav Maga. Izuku also trained in the most deadly known martial arts techniques, such as 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, which translates to pounding a lion, capoeira, sambo and 𝗬𝗏𝗏. I just looked up deadly martial arts and copied the easiest to pronounce. He also stayed on a strict diet and stuck to his harsh regime, pushing his body to the limits and beyond. Something peculiar began to happen to Izuku as well. Since he never went outside and never had the need to cut his hair, he grew it out. Shorter than Aizawa's, but still longish, and is well kept. I might draw a pic later on. Izuku started to get strong urges for meat, and sometimes his eyesight would flicker and he'd be able to see, smell, hear, and in general, sense things very well. He was also more aware of his surroundings, and his hair started to grow quicker. Izuku knew something was up, so he did research. Of course he did. Who do you take him for? And after studying himself, he concluded that he indeed did have a quirk. His quirk, called Primal Instinct, allowed him to tap into animal senses. But that wasn't all. He could also transform into any animal, as long as the animal is a part of the big cat family. So this ranged from your regular house cat to a full-grown lion or tiger. He could also choose what age he wanted to transform into. So for example, if he were to transform into a leopard, he could transform into a baby, a teen, or an adult. To test his ability out, Izuku stood still and concentrated on becoming a panther. He focused and tapped into his primal instinct. Suddenly, his body began to shift in form and change. Black fur sprouted along his body, and Izuku's limbs became longer and leaner. Black ears popped up from his head, and he grew a long, thin tail. His mouth became more animalistic, and his teeth grew sharper. Izuku felt his body tingling with excitement and anticipation, and he was so aware of his environment. The feeling was incredible, and Izuku felt so powerful and confident. His eyes snapped open to reveal appealing, glowing, emerald green eyes that had black cat-like pupils in slits like cat eyes that you could easily get lost in. Izuku tentatively put a paw forward and leaped forward. He suddenly sprang forward with incredible power and speed, and Izuku was shocked with the strength he had. It felt like he was flying until he went smack into the wall. He promptly became human again and retained his clothing somehow. Where it goes, don't question it. I'm lazy. Izuku thought as he rubbed his nose. I guess I'll have to work on that. And oh boy, did Izuku work. He practiced his quirk, and he found out more and more about it as he went. For example, transforming and staying in his state of animal required lots of mental training, but nothing that couldn't be worked on. Izuku also discovered that he could partially transform by accidentally sprouting a set of lion teeth while he was digging into his fresh meat. Izuku also had a drawback of sorts. There was a limit to how long he could be transformed, which depended on his mental capacity. If he had strong mental capacity, then he could stay transformed for a long period of time. Also, Izuku's hair needed to be a certain length for him to be able to access his quirk, but if he frequently used his quirk, then he could get away with slightly long but still not super long hair. Izuku theorized that the cause of this was because animals have lots of fur, and if he was going to transform into big cats, he needed a sort of root to connect him to the cats. Basically, since his mental capacity wasn't quite strong enough, he was never able to access his quirk. But since he started meditating while he was in his basement, his mental energy increased, and with the help of his hair, which served as an anchor to help him connect to his Primal Instinct, Izuku was able to get in touch with his quirk. Izuku began to train his quirk alongside his regular regime and soon became very fluent with using it. With his grit and determination, Izuku shattered the limits of his quirk, something that is very rare in his society and requires incredible stamina and resilience. Few people have been documented to be able to do such a feat, and all were incredibly powerful already and trained countless years to do so. Only a select few ever have the potential to break the limits of their quirk and unlock the beyonds, and they usually don't even know they can do this. Even if they have the innate ability, many people aren't able to access it, even with rigorous training. But Izuku unlocked this legendary power within months and mastered it to its fullest. However, he had a price to pay. While he became incredibly strong and his quirk, which was already powerful, became even more powerful and had no limits/drawbacks, Izuku became bland. While he still retained the status of a hybrid between a cinnamon roll and an insanely hot snack, and he did still have emotions, his emotions were rare and dulled. Like, if we was a hybrid cinnamon roll/insanely hot snack, then he was basically a tribrid between a cinnamon roll, an insanely hot snack, and a mini Izawa. Note in the future, Izawa will take a liking to Izuku bit of 𝗬𝗬𝗧𝗪 person POV when Izuku finally emerged from his basement of doom, as his mother called it. His mom was astounded with the change. Her son went from a small, flustered boy to a tall, muscular, handsome/cute man. Somehow he's handsome and cute. It's the power of Izuku people. Izuku's hair was grown out so it was slightly longer than before. He cut it as short as he could so it didn't get in the way and he could still use his quirk. Look for explanation above. I will explain his quirk fully and more later. Izuku's eyes were slightly lighter and they almost glowed. He cut it as short as he could so it didn't get in the way and he could still use his quirk. Look for explanation above. I will explain his quirk fully and more later. Izuku's eyes were slightly lighter and they almost glowed. Izuku's hair is like this, except not as straight and more fluffy, like his old hair but not curly, fluffy. Also instead of orange, Izuku's hair is green with light green highlights that sort of seem to glow. Yes, I changed his hair color slightly, and the anime that this is from is Bleach, and it's 𝗳𝗲𝗎𝐻𝐿 if you want to know. His mother also noticed that his clothes didn't fit him anymore, as he was now much taller, broad-shouldered and toned. She could easily see through the tight-fitting shirt his rock-hard, toned 8-pack abs, and he had toned muscles well everywhere. Readers, I know what you're thinking. It's not like that. No, Izuku looked at her and smiled, and she knew that despite the massive change in appearance, he was still her son. Izuku! 𝗵𝗃 cried, rushing towards him. She scooped him up into a big hug, tears flowing down her cheeks. Izuku hugged her back, tears glistening in his bright emerald eyes. She only saw glimpses of her son, and this was the first time she had really gotten a chance to see him. After they got through the emotions, Izuku explained everything to 𝗵𝗃, starting from his constant bullying and rejection, up until All Might, and explained his training and quirk. When he was finally done, 𝗵𝗃's eyes had prepared a new batch of tears that immediately began to pour out like a waterfall. Are you okay? What's happening? Did you get a second quirk? Izuku frantically tried to help, not knowing what to do. He is still sorta dense. Are you okay? What's happening? Did you get a second quirk? Izuku frantically tried to help, not knowing what to do. He is still sorta dense. I'm just so sorry you had to go through that. 𝗵𝗃 wailed. I never thought that you were being bullied for your quirklessness, and you suffered so much. 𝗵𝗃 cried while her eyes became water geysers. Izuku sniffed. Izuku, let's think about this. Mom, thank you for caring so much about me. Izuku sniffed. Izuku, remember what we talked about. Don't do this. Consider the ramifications. If you do this, I will end you along with this story. Oh, Izuku cried, and his eyes too became water geysers, tears gushing out of them. Together they wailed and hugged each other, full of emotion. Izuku, no. It's splashing all over the fourth wall. I'm trying to type. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪 wailed, but in vain. It's splashing all over the fourth wall. I'm trying to type. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪 wailed, but in vain. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪, it's just beautiful. Izuku sobs, his eyes preparing for another round. Izuku, please, I'm already soaked, so is poor fourth wall. Sanyu and Inko will break the fourth wall with your tears, they're too powerful. Author San tries to hold back the water from bursting through, desperately applying Gorilla Glue to the cracks. It's too late. Izuku wails. No 𝗧𝗪𝗲𝗵𝗲, author San drowns. 𝗓𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 Die RIP author-san. You died a valiant death. Izuku POV. Izuku stayed up during the night training, even though he was already in perfect shape. Man, I've become too used to getting no sleep, Izuku thought as he reached his 500th push-up, which he was doing with one hand, and the other hand was lifting a 100 pounds dumbbell. Placing the dumbbell on the ground, Izuku hopped to his feet. Alright then, Izuku said aloud, time to go for a quick jog. He quickly pulled on a hoodie and ran outside. Jogging, Izuku thought about the UA entrance exam. Knowing UA, it would probably be pretty difficult, and there would also be a twist. Izuku continued to jog through his neighborhood, muttering to himself. A few cats that were hidden away in the alleys came out and walked alongside him. They were attracted to him because they sensed he was a cat like them, except stronger. Izuku thought. I guess I'm like, they're alpha. It's probably because of my quirk and how it allows me to change into cats, and I can use it for big cats. Also, they probably feel familiar with me and look up to me. Izuku went on a whole new muttering spree, but the cats didn't seem to mind. In fact, they seemed to enjoy it. One black cat with green eyes suddenly leapt from a rooftop and landed on Izuku's fluffy head. Perched on his head, the cat began to make itself at home and nestled itself in Izuku's fluffy dark green hair before it promptly fell asleep. Izuku always had a soft spot for cats, and this one appealed to him particularly. Reaching his hand up above his head, he scratched the cat's ear. Do you want to come home with me? Izuku asked the cat. I could use the company. The cat woke up and yawned, and then nuzzled against Izuku's hand, purring. Izuku cracked a smile, and continued on his way, with the black cat atop his head and the many others following him pleased. As Izuku continued to mutter and jog, with the cats trotting after him, he didn't notice he was getting into a bad neighborhood, and it was still dark out. Suddenly, a man sprung out of the shadows and aimed a gun at Izuku. Don't move, the man shouted. Hand over your wallet or else you'll get to feel what it's like to have a bullet in your head. Izuku grinned, and confusion crossed the villain's face. This can be called self-defense, then, right? Izuku smirked. Don't think about doing anything, 'cause I'm the one with a gun at your face. Izuku rushed forward with alarming speed before the villain could even react, and in one swift movement, Izuku kicked the gun out of the villain's hands and spin-kicked the villain in the torso. Like this is 𝗵𝗃𝗲 fighting style, which I mentioned that Izuku learned in Chapter 1. The villain was pushed back with incredible force by Izuku's kick, and slammed into a wall, making a crack in the wall. Izuku caught the gun that he kicked into the air and pointed it at the villain. This was all in a matter of seconds. That's how fast Izuku was. Oh, what were you saying about a gun? Izuku smirked widely, which oddly resembled Aizawa's classic SHT eating grin. The villain looked at Izuku in shock, then fear and finally anger. I have nothing to lose now anyway. The villain lunged at Izuku, pulling out a knife that he had hidden in his coat. Whoa, 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 Izuku exclaimed as he easily dodged the villain's mad swiping. Careful there, you could end up hurting someone. Izuku remarked. Growling in frustration, the villain plunged towards Izuku again, only to be met with a rapid set of harsh martial arts combos. Something like this. Just imagine a whole bunch of badassery. The villain choked, unable to fight back or even keep up with Izuku's rapid movements. After Izuku delivered the final blow, the villain smashed into the ground so hard he created a small crater. Oops, I went overboard. Well, it's not my fault. The villain was weak. Izuku sighed. Pulling out his phone, Izuku dialed 911 and told them that there was an unconscious villain on the street. He gave his location and jogged away with the cats, who just calmly sat by while the fight was going on, with complete confidence in Izuku. Aizawa POV, holy 𝗧𝗵𝗃, a certain hero remarked after Izuku was gone. He knew All Might would get mad at him for stealing his line, but this situation certainly called for a remark like that. He quickly pulled out his phone and called 911, and explained that he was there to take the villain into custody. Aizawa jumped down from his perch on a lamppost and examined the body. The villain was knocked out cold and had taken quite a beating. But what shocked Aizawa the most was that even though he erased the kid's quirk to ensure no illegal quirk usage occurred, the kid didn't use his quirk. Geez, Aizawa thought. I've got to meet this kid again. The kid intrigued him, as he had incredible strength, an awesome grin, and the cats loved him. Aizawa loves cats, and he knows that the kid must be one hell of a kid to garner the respect of those cats. Cats, after all, are supreme judges of character and power. Grinning slightly, Aizawa wrapped the unconscious villain in his capture cloth and jumped away on the rooftops to the nearest police station. He would find the kid later, and then he would see what to do. But one thing's for sure, Aizawa was excited. It's been a long time since I found someone who actually has potential, the underground hero thought. Potential not only as a great hero, but also to inherit Aizawa's advanced sleeping techniques, and possibly Aizawa's Grandmaster Sleeper title. After all, Aizawa saw how huge that kid's eye bags were, and how bloodshot his eyes were. His hair was also long like Aizawa's own. Yes indeed, he found quite an interesting kid. Almost as sleep-deprived and antisocial looking as Aizawa himself, possibly even rivaling Aizawa. Days out from the basement days from the UA entrance exam, Izuku was petting his new black cat at his house, thinking of what to name him. Izuku went to get the cat checked up and registered, and found out that along with having no name or owner, the cat was a healthy male. One thing that was different about this cat, though, was the interesting scar on its muzzle. It was small, but still noticeable, but Izuku didn't mind. He thought of it like a battle scar, his own little warrior. Little warrior, that's it. Izuku sprung from the couch he was sitting on, and the cat yowled protestingly from the sudden dismissal of Izuku's warm hand. Izuku remembered reading something in the basement in an ancient language, which Izuku of course studied and knew how to read, write, understand and speak. In this language, 𝗬𝗲 meant strong and mighty, which would basically translate into English as a warrior. If Izuku changed it, yes, Izuku started pacing now, muttering up a storm and tapping his finger to his mouth, deep in concentration. That's it. Izuku exclaimed in victory. He spun and pointed his finger at the cat. 𝗵𝗃, the cat inquired, cocking its head to the left. Your name is now 𝗬𝗲. It is loosely translated for little warrior. 𝗬𝗲 perked up, his green emerald eyes showed obvious pleasure at the new name. Now that it's almost time for the UA entrance exams, I should brush up on my skills, Izuku thought aloud. Guess I'll go to Dagoba Municipal Beach and clean up the trash for 3 days. Shouldn't be too much work for me. As Izuku started to make his way out of the door to jog over to Dagoba Beach, little 𝗬𝗲 sprung from his perch and latched himself onto Izuku's back with his sharp claws. It didn't bother Izuku, since he had a tolerance for pain, but he tried to spin around in shock. 𝗬𝗲, though, stayed securely fastened to Izuku's back. 𝗬𝗲. Izuku tried spinning around to see, but that didn't work out, for obvious reasons. Izuku tried to reach his hand back and remove the cat, but 𝗬𝗲 swatted his hand away and meowed in protest. Izuku sighed. Okay, fine. Be like that. And so Izuku marched out the door with a cat latched onto his back like a leech. Any passerby that saw this strange scene would immediately tell you that they could have sworn that cat was grinning with victory. Minutes later, SpongeBob voice. That fresh air. The sandy beach and the rolling waves. And that giant freaking pile of trash. That means we're here. Izuku stated to 𝗬𝗲, who meowed in agreement. 𝗬𝗲, during the ride for him, not for Izuku, had switched to a more comfortable position that seemed to be his favorite, his throne atop Izuku's fluffy dark green hair. Alright, let's do this. Izuku went over towards the trash and started lifting without using his quirk. He already did plenty of quirk training at his own house, and besides, this place was best for a body workout without the quirk. 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗏, who's picking up trash here? At this time. Aizawa grumbled from his hiding spot. Oh well, I'll just sleep while I can. Being the expert sleeper he is, Aizawa fell asleep in his yellow caterpillar sleeping bag, which was buried within the trash. Aizawa was buried in the trash. Sleeping. What prowess, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏! Izuku exclaimed, waking Aizawa up. Shifting around until he was facing the boy, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 grumbled, "Quiet now. It's early in the morning here." "Oh yeah, I hear you. Sorry, excuse me. I'll clean up a different spot," the boy answered, with a monotone, emotionless voice akin to 𝗬𝗧𝗏's own. As the boy walked away, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 could get a clear full view of the boy. That kid, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 realized. And the 𝗬𝗵𝗃 on his head too. Slightly grinning, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 attempted to get out of the pile of trash, but kind of flopped over and tumbled to the ground. "Oh, I'm still in my sleeping bag," 𝗬𝗧𝗏 thought aloud. The kid with the fluffy dark green hair turned around to look at 𝗬𝗧𝗏, unsurprised. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 could see now, this kid had emerald highlights in his hair and his eyes that intelligent emerald green almost seemed to be glowing, along with his messy hair. He looked to be pretty tall and well-built, and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 could make out the faint outline of an 8-pack under the boy's shirt, which must mean that he is very toned, muscular, and his 8-pack is really prominent. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 thought to himself, "This will be interesting." Izuku POV the trash man clambered out of his sleeping bag, and Izuku noted that the sleeping bag was very nice banana yellow edition, only from the top makers. Izuku had one of his own, but his was in the other rare color, eye-bleeding highlighter green. Izuku swears, that's actually what it's called. Just imagine 𝗬𝗧𝗏's own sleeping bag, exactly the same, except neon green. Just imagine 𝗬𝗧𝗏's own sleeping bag, exactly the same, except neon green. "Oh, you're the man from yesterday that was watching me." Izuku droned. Mild surprise flashed across the man's face, but it was quickly covered. "Yeah," the man croaked out. "I figured you stopped me. Kid, do you know who I am?" "Of course I do. You're the underground erasure hero, Eraserhead. Your quirk, Erasure, allows you to erase someone's quirk just by looking at them. But once you blink, the effect is over, and a drawback is dry eye, which is one of the reasons why you have such large eye bags and bloodshot eyes. Rather impressive, really. Your real name is Aizawa Shota, and you teach the Class 1A Hero course at UA High School. Or you will, this year. And I must say," Izuku continued, "that your super sleeping bag model TY34, Rare Edition Banana Yellow is in excellent condition. Is that bulletproof Kevlar lining I see?" "Of course it is. My eyesight is excellent. Beyond excellent, actually. I should actually improve on my eyesight, along with the other sensory aspects of my quirk," Izuku droned on, muttering. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 just stood there with a blank expression, observing the teenager. "And then maybe I could get support items to make it so that my clothing is easier to wear when I shift, and then I could also use that opportunity to, kid." Izuku looked up from his intense muttering session. Pretend that Izuku is the Izuku from this story, with a slightly monotoned voice, and all might is 𝗬𝗧𝗏. Feel free to stop at 0. Kid, I'm thinking you have some potential. Not that much though. I'd like to test you." 𝗬𝗧𝗏 challenged Izuku. Looking up to meet his eyes, Izuku responded, "Sure. I could use a good fight." 𝗬𝗧𝗏, this kid, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 thought to himself, grinning internally. He has an incredible intellect, and seems to have great reflexes, fighting style, and all without using his quirk. I'll take him to UA, and have Nizu evaluate his intelligence. I'm sure they'll get along great. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 smirked at the thought of Nizu meeting Izuku, but then shuddered a bit. While it is essential, I'm sure that Nizu might have a little too much fun with this kid. "Come with me," 𝗬𝗧𝗏 told the kid, who looked at him, slightly confused. "I'm going to bring you to UA, where the principal will evaluate you in a fight against me, and the principal will also evaluate your mind and intelligence." UA's principal and the hero principal himself, whose race also a widely debated subject, and no one knows if he is a cat, a mouse, a bear, a thing, or all of them. Nizu, the teenager exclaimed. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 merely lifted an eyebrow. How does he know all of this? 𝗬𝗧𝗏 thought, but shrugged it off. I'm sure to find out with the help of Nizu. Yes, him. Come on, kid. Oh, what's your name? 𝗬𝗧𝗏 asked. The teenager grinned and said, Izuku Midoriya. Well, come on then, Izuku. And the two jogged off to UA, with Kammin still napping atop Izuku's nest of fluffy hair. Izuku POV. I have to admit, when 𝗬𝗧𝗏 brought me to UA, my outside appearance remained cool and unemotional, but inside I was a bit excited, like there was electricity crackling inside me. Maybe it was because I was excited for a fight with Aizawa, or to meet 𝗍𝗓, someone who could actually match me in terms of analysis and intelligence. Whatever it was, there was something even stranger. I had this weird feeling about Aizawa. I felt sort of at home and peaceful around him. Probably my cat instincts, because the cats seemed to love him. As we walked along, cats came jumping down from trees and stalking out of the shadows to gather around me. Aizawa only raised an eyebrow, but for the most part remained neutral, except for the occasional glance at the cats and the rare moments where his fingers would wander to scratch a cat behind the ear. We quickly made our way to UA High School, and within seconds we arrived at the gates. The massive size of the building did not intimidate me, as I strode up with Aizawa confidently towards the gates. We made our way through the building wordlessly, and since there were no students around as the new school year hadn't started up yet, there were only teachers. Izuku noticed that the teachers either nodded respectfully at Aizawa or looked away with fear in their eyes. The teachers also eyed Izuku with interest, but none came close to the duo as Aizawa would give them a glare if they stepped towards the boy. They arrived at a large door that labeled, "Principal's Office. Enter if you dare." Izuku did dare. Aizawa had informed the principal beforehand of their arrival, and the minute that Izuku gripped the doorknob and turned it, he knew something was amiss. Izuku opened the door, and immediately jumped with his knees tucked up to his chest, narrowly avoiding a short blade that sliced through the air. Aizawa merely chuckled. Izuku landed with both feet planted, walked over to the blade lodged in the wall and pulled it out. He then walked back to the office, where the mouse/cat/bear thing was waiting, and handed the weapon to him calmly. "I believe this is yours, 𝗍𝗓-san." "Excellent. Your reflexes are astounding, your agility and strength is commendable, and you analyzed that situation instantly and efficiently." 𝗍𝗓 complimented. "Aizawa, if you would leave us be in the office for a bit." Of course, Aizawa, who was already half asleep in his sleeping bag, hopped/walked/flopped towards the door, and then flopped onto the floor behind the door, closing it behind him. A thump could be heard, and Izuku raised an eyebrow. "He'll be fine," 𝗍𝗓 assured. "Now, let's get down to business, shall we?" When Izuku came out, there was already a crowd of pro-hero teachers waiting outside, who were very interested to see this interesting boy who 𝗍𝗓 of all pop no, cat/mouse/bear things would want to meet. When Izuku emerged, he and 𝗍𝗓 were chatting away. Izuku with his occasional mutterings that were now starting to sound more and more sadistic/creepy, and 𝗍𝗓 with his extremely sadistic laugh to Izuku's mutterings and comments. The two got along really well, which terrified all of the teachers. First Aizawa brings this kid in, and now 𝗍𝗓 is friends with him. If this wasn't reason enough to fear this kid, he already looked like Aizawa with his dark green hair falling over his face. His hair covered his eyes, and there was a dark shadow crossing his face, so you could only see a bright emerald glint from the darkness where his eyes should be. In addition, it didn't help that he was muttering in a way that was incredibly similar to 𝗍𝗓's own sadistic laugh. And when 𝗍𝗓 announced to all of the teachers that Izuku would be learning from himself 𝗍𝗓 and Aizawa, and would get in by recommendations, all the teachers were scared shitless. "Now, Izuku, let's go outside to the training grounds where you will fight Aizawa. I understand that with your IQ of 314, you can easily overcome Aizawa using your intelligence, but I would like you to try to use only your physical abilities and quirk." Wait, all the teachers thought. He has an IQ of 314. That's even more than 𝗍𝗓. 𝗍𝗓 has an IQ of 300. Izuku simply nodded in assent. "Hey, 𝗍𝗓-sensei, it sure is a pain to go down the stairs." Izuku trailed off. 𝗍𝗓 smiled and replied, "Sure, Izuku. Go ahead." All of the teachers again thought, 𝗍𝗓 and Izuku are already best friends, they know each other's thoughts. Scary. Izuku walked over to the side of the hallway and opened up a window. He then placed a foot on the window ledge and hopped off out of the building to the ground. Everyone except Aizawa and 𝗍𝗓 rushed to the window, only to see Izuku land perfectly on both feet, creating a small cloud of dust around him. Izuku looked back up at the window. "Oh, are you coming, Aizawa-san?" Aizawa grinned and hopped down after him. "Where's 𝗍𝗬-sensei?" Izuku asked, and the principal popped out of Aizawa's scarf and gave a thumbs up. Aizawa and Izuku stood on opposite sides of the field, in their fighting stances. The field looked sort of like a Pokemon battlefield. There were teachers observing from the sidelines, and Nizu stood along the side as well, observing quietly. And then it began. Aizawa lunged towards Izuku with alarming speed, and moved out a fist. Izuku dodged to the side, and Aizawa landed. Quickly, Aizawa roundhouse kicked Izuku, who blocked it with his fist. Aizawa continued with his attacks on Izuku, who would dodge or block them, and observed Aizawa. "Come on, kid, show me what you're made of." Aizawa grinned, and his hair rose up, along with his scarf. His eyes glinted red, and his scarf swirled around him mysteriously. Aizawa lashed his scarf out, and Izuku narrowly dodged by jumping into the air. Phew, that was a close one. Izuku thought, but Aizawa smirked. Before Izuku landed, Aizawa moved his scarf out at Izuku once more, securing around him strongly. Izuku tumbled to the ground, and Aizawa deactivated his quirk. "Come on now, that was just too easy. Where is that strength that I saw in the alley?" Aizawa taunted, and Izuku's eyes glinted. Suddenly he disappeared. Everyone, including Aizawa, thought, "What? Where did he go?" Nizu just smiled knowingly. Aizawa's scarf released, as Izuku disappeared, and Aizawa retracted the scarf back to him. It revealed a small kitten, with striking emerald eyes. The kitten meowed and cocked its head, and Aizawa felt a sharp pain in his heart. Many teachers on the sidelines said, "Ah," until the little, innocent kitten gave a creepy, not-so-innocent grin, and shifted into a gigantic white tiger, with the same bright green eyes. Izuku growled, and then lunged forward, strong legs propelling him at insane speeds. His paws thumped against the ground, and he extended his sharp claws. Izuku leapt, and his muscles rippled under his white fur with striking black markings. He opened his jaws, displaying an impressive set of pointy teeth, and landed on Aizawa, pinning him to the ground and baring his fangs threateningly. Aizawa managed to activate his quirk and erase Izuku's quirk, rendering him in human form. "Heh, I guess we're doing this the old-fashioned way, Aizawa-san." "Yep. Prepare yourself." Aizawa shouted back at Izuku. They charged at each other, and engaged in a rapid martial arts battle. For every blocked strike there was a counterattack, for every dodge there was a sweeping kick to the feet or an uppercut into the jaw. The teachers watched in awe as the two struck with their fists and feet with such precision, strength and speed that you could barely even see the blows. But Aizawa was slowly being pushed back by Izuku's sheer force. All of a sudden, Aizawa grinned his classic 𝗧𝗓𝗔𝗔 grin and jumped into the air, spinning with his scarf swirling around him. Aizawa landed right on top of Izuku, striking him to the ground, and Aizawa wrapped his capture tape around Izuku while keeping his quirk erased. "It's over," Aizawa deadpanned, smirking. "You gave me quite the challenge, kid, but I've been a pro for a while now. You have room for improvement, but you definitely have some potential." Aizawa complimented Izuku, releasing his scarf and returning it around his neck, his hair falling back down into place. Izuku got up from the ground, covered in dust. He then closed his eyes and did a weird martial arts pose that got most of the teachers confused, but some recognized the style. Suddenly opening his eyes, Izuku moved his palm out, and all of the dust fell off of him. Aizawa looked at him, impressed. "So you know the Shinsei Kado, the ancient martial arts form of release?" "Few do." Nizu told Izuku, who then explained his training and how he accessed the breaking limits power. Most of the teachers already went home, but the few who stayed complimented Izuku on his power and his technique. Nizu then told Aizawa and the rest of the teachers that while Izuku would be entering UA through recommendations, he would also be training under Nizu and Aizawa themselves up until that time to improve his technique. Izuku went home, pleased with himself. He found a place with people who understood him. He belonged. And he would be back tomorrow. He couldn't wait. After my fight with Aizawa and meeting Nizu and everyone, I went back home to my basement and slept in my green sleeping bag. Well tried. Some types of cats are nocturnal, so that affects me, and it causes me to have lack of sleep. So, I gain my normal amount of sleep about 2 hours. 𝗧𝗏 told me to meet him at 𝗧𝗵𝗿𝗺 Municipal Beach at 1 a.m. because he knows I'm awake at that time anyway. I pull on a loose shirt and some baggy pants, and I jog over to the beach. When I arrive, I see that 𝗧𝗏 is already waiting there. "You're late," he deadpanned. "No, I'm not. See." I pull out my phone, check the screen. "Oh." I mumble as I see the screen flashes 1:18. Well, I meet his gaze, challenging. "Do you blame me for being late?" "I guess not. 𝗵𝗃 cocky brat." 𝗧𝗏 then grins, which kind of scares me. I remember how confident I was in our last battle, and how he put me to the ground. And I knew I was strong, and he wasn't even using his full strength. "These next 9 days will be hell for you. I'm going to put you through extreme harsh training to make you worthy of being a UA recommended student. I may have said you have potential, but not that much. I only said you had more than anyone else, and everyone else has 0. 𝗧𝗏 smirked even wider. "Do you understand? What makes you different is that you don't have 0 potential. Do you understand? What makes you different is that you don't have 0 potential, which means I'm going to give you even worse hell than the ones who do have 0. At this point, 𝗧𝗏 was grinning widely in a very malicious, evil way. Now let's begin. Time skip 9 days later to the day of the UA entrance exam. BC I'm lazy. Advertisement. Time skip is brought to you by SpongeBob Corp. Call 197 totally not copyright. I'm lazy. Or ignore this message. I was breathing heavily and sweating profusely as I was barely standing on the sand of 𝗧𝗵𝗿𝗺 Beach. I finished cleaning up the whole beach in 9 days. Over these days, I not only cleaned the beach and got absolutely no sleep, but 𝗧𝗏 also trained with me relentlessly one-on-one. We had many sparring matches in which all of them he won. I had come to fear him when he started to smirk, and when he was grinning widely I would know I'd be in for true hell on earth. It is now 4 o'clock in the morning, and the UA entrance exam begins at 8 a.m. I know I don't have to attend, what with being a recommended student and all, but I'm planning on going anyway, because I want to see the potential and analyze all of the candidates' quirks. Also, 𝗧𝗏 is dragging me along with him. Over these past 9 days, 𝗧𝗏 and I have become a little bit closer. Not in the way that we are friends, no, that's scary. But more like I see him as the father figure that I never had. My mother always told me my father was working in an important job overseas, so I never really saw him, and my mother didn't like to talk about it too much. 𝗧𝗏 became kind of like the father I never had. I slap my cheeks to wake myself up and I jump on top of a rooftop, leaping from roof to roof until I get to UA. 𝗧𝗏 taught me how to do that, and not only is it efficient to avoid humans, but also to avoid the even worse media. The media has been all over the mysterious cleaning of 𝗧𝗵𝗿𝗺 Beach, as it has now become a popular place for couples and others. Many people have many memories there, and so the media loves the idea of a sort of guardian angel. I don't really know, because I try to avoid the media as much as possible, like my 𝗧𝗵𝗲. In addition to training with 𝗧𝗏, I've also been having lessons with 𝗧𝗏 twice a day. 𝗧𝗏 and I have much in common, and we are the only ones who can really appreciate each other, because of our advanced intellects that are beyond the normal human mind. Oh, and also the fact that we both have, creepy habits. Once I reach UA, I go to 𝗧𝗏's office, where we have another one of our discussions, and he helps train my mind and teaches me important skills like different strategies when encountering a villain in different situations, such as hostages, dangerous quirks, villain organizations, etc. Oh, and also the most important skill of all, lying/reverse psychology. 𝗧𝗏 helped me really understand the human mind in order to efficiently exploit Izuku. 𝗧𝗏 snaps me out of my trance. What? You were muttering again. 𝗧𝗏 smiles patiently. Oh, sorry, sense. I reply, and we continue with our lesson. Say, Izuku, you're watching the exams, correct? 𝗧𝗏 smiles slightly, in which I nod yes. I know where he's going with this. I know him well enough to know when he has a plan hatching. Sure enough, his eyes glistened as if there was a light bulb going off in his head and illuminating his skull through his eyes. Creepy, I know, just go with it. Izuku, why don't you pretend to be one of the fellow candidates taking the exam? Then we can have you truly observe all of the different students, and you can even end up being a trial as a faux villain. Then we can see how the children react to that sort of situation. 𝗍𝗬 laughs his signature laugh, and I grin slightly. Yes, 𝗍𝗬-sensei, that will work splendidly. And we laugh together heartily, knowing how much fun it will be to see the kids' reactions. I'll inform Present Mic, Aizawa and the other proctors about the updated situation immediately. Oh, and Izuku. 𝗍𝗬 continued. Do try to act more sociable. Present a fake personality, maybe go with a stuttering, nervous, innocent personality. Your real disposition is not very suiting for this mission, and besides, you need to work on mastering the art of deception. 𝗍𝗬 exclaimed gleefully. I grin in response, and nod affirmative. I dismiss myself and prepare to shock the future students to their core. I grin to myself and let out a light chuckle as I glance at the clock on the wall in the hallway. It's almost time for the exams. I hop down to the gates of UA and hide in a tree nearby. I'll wait here until examinees begin to come in. I think to myself as I quietly lay in wait. I will turn on them when they least expect it. And I will make Sensei and Aizawa proud. The ends of my lips turn up slightly, and I know that this undercover mission will be quite fun. Izuku stood in front of the gates of UA. On the outside, a passerby would see a nervous, green-haired boy who looked like he was freaking out. But no one knew that Izuku was proud of himself for deceiving so well. Izuku stumbled forward, and fake shivered with nervousness. This should do it, he thought. How's this for deceit, 𝗍𝗬-sensei? I look like a total stuttering, nerdy mess. Like my old self, Izuku's foot suddenly met a rock. Oh, this is a perfect chance for me to trip now, Izuku thought. Of course, he normally wouldn't have missed a step, but he has a part to play. Izuku went crashing down and prepared himself for collision. But it never came. Opening his eyes that were squeezed tightly shut, he found himself floating in the air. Oh, sorry. I used my quirk on you without permission. A brown-haired girl with a round, rosy face apologized. She must have an zero-gravity quirk, Izuku thought. Time to lay the dweebiness on thick. Oh, well, thanks for helping me. Izuku stuttered, then stopped. What should my name be? I need a fake name, let's come up with something quick, got it. I'm Kaido Takashi. Nice to meet you. That was a good save. The girl smiled back and replied, I'm Ochako Uraraka. Takashi-san, are you nervous? Why yes, this is kinda overwhelming, huh? Definitely. Well, good luck, Takashi-san. The girl flashed another smile and ran off. For good effect, Izuku stood there with a dumb look on his face. He quickly glanced up at the UA building one more time, and saw Aizawa and 𝗍𝗬 looking down at him. 𝗍𝗬 gave him a thumbs up. Internally, Izuku smirked. It was time to get this show on the road. SpongeBob voice a few moments later, are you 𝗬𝗲𝗏? Present Mic shouted. He was met with silence. Izuku quietly observed the scene, focusing on keeping his muttering habits suppressed. He had a role to play, after all. He had to be more prominent when the exams actually started. As Present Mic was explaining the rules of the exam, a boy with dark blue hair raised his hand and shouted out a question about the robots. Izuku tried to keep him contempt compressed. This impudent kid was blurting out questions like a rich entitled kid. And he didn't even allow Present Mic to finish. Izuku knew what the exam was all about beforehand, being 𝗍𝗬 and Aizawa's protégés, and being a highly recommended student and all. Present Mic answered the question, and the examinees were released into one large sector, with thousands of robots. Yes, I know that is different from the canon. It is intentional. When Izuku arrived at the sector, he spotted the stuck-up guy and the upbeat girl. He went over to both of them and made friends with them. He then went around to a bunch of other examinees and made friends with them too, then gathered them all. He explained his idea that they should work together because if they were all together in a city, then that must mean that they must work together and help each other, like true heroes. Ida, as Izuku now learned that was the brunette's name, thought Izuku's insight and realization of another part of the test was impressive. Uraraka also agreed with Izuku, and so Izuku and his band of examinees, along with 𝗬𝗧𝗏 and 𝗧𝗬𝗏, all helped each other out when the exam started. Izuku was doing a good job of following Nizu's orders, and was waiting for Nizu's signal to turn the tables against his so-called friends. I did a good job of deceiving them. I feel almost bad that I have to turn against them. Almost. Izuku thought as he helped his friends smash the robots into the ground. The truth is, Izuku knew that while he learned more about his friends, he also judged that some of them had some potential, and others had almost none. He would report this information back to Nizu later. All of a sudden, a siren went off in the city. 15 minutes left. 15 minutes left, examinees. The final boss level obstacle has been released. 20 points for whoever defeats it. Present Mick's voice came shouting out, ringing throughout the city. He didn't need a megaphone, because his quirk, voice, allowed him to be his own super powerful megaphone. Izuku stopped and smirked a little. This was the signal that Nizu told him to wait for. Takashi. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 stopped and glanced back at him, confused. They said we have 15 minutes left and there's a boss level obstacle on the loose, we have to hurry. What are you doing? 𝗬𝗧𝗏 trailed off as she saw my creepy grin. Iida turned around to see what was wrong, and the others followed suit. Sorry guys. It's really too bad for you. I grinned even wider, which caused some of my friends to stumble back a little in surprise. Even some other examinees came over to see what was happening. You see, I never was your friend. I looked at each of them dead in the eye. I saw their shocked expressions, mixed with confusion and fright. I am the final obstacle. I shout out, and I let my body morph and transform into 380 kilograms Siberian tiger that was towering over the examinees. I am the final obstacle. I shout out, and I let my body morph and transform into 380 kilograms Siberian tiger that was towering over the examinees. 380 kilograms translates to roughly 840 pounds, in case you wanted to know. The above picture is for reference to show you just how huge Izuku is right now in a large adult male Siberian tiger form. Also, for reference, the average male Siberian tiger's weight is 320 kilograms, or 700 pounds. Benefits of being a nerd PPL. Nerd comeback 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Izuku let out a mighty roar that caused many examinees to flee in terror. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 and 𝗧𝗬𝗏 had horror painted all over their face. Ha! Izuku thought. They're probably really hurt that I betrayed them and lied to them. This is too good and they didn't even know this was my quirk. Roaring once more, Izuku lunged forward at the examinees, claws sheathed so he wouldn't wound the examinees badly. Nizu said minimal damage so UA wouldn't get too many lawsuits. And Nizu also knew just how powerful Izuku was, even before he started training with Aizawa and Nizu himself. Izuku swatted the remaining examinees away with one mighty swoop of his paw. Izuku continued to knock down the examinees again and again. 𝗧𝗬𝗏 and 𝗬𝗧𝗏 fled the scene, shocked about Izuku. They probably decided I was too much of a challenge, and they couldn't bear to hurt their precious friend. They were weak. They'd probably get in because they don't have zero potential and they scored a few points. Die. An explosion blasted Izuku in the face, causing him to stumble back a little. He opened his bright green eyes and what he saw made even him shocked a little. He saw his former childhood friend and former bully, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 nitroglycerin like sweat from his palms and ignite it at will to create yep, you guessed it, explosions. Izuku always admired Katsuki, no matter how harshly he bullied Izuku, but things were different now. It's been a year since Izuku last saw Katsuki, and Izuku changed drastically since they last met. He developed not only a quirk, but incredible strength and an even better mind. Izuku wasn't the same old Deku that Katsuki knew. And besides, Katsuki didn't know that the tiger was Izuku. Grinning in his tiger form, which was kind of difficult, Izuku changed form from a tiger straight into a lion. Letting his primal instincts take over, Izuku lunged at Katsuki and engaged in a fierce battle. Izuku would swipe and claw at Katsuki, claws sheathed, of course, and Katsuki would blast Izuku back with his explosions. Both boys were having some fun, as they finally found someone worthy. Izuku was glad he finally got to kick Katsuki's butt. In a final attack, Izuku charged at Katsuki, his powerful legs propelling him forward. In a final attack, Izuku charged at Katsuki, his powerful legs propelling him forward. Katsuki was breathing heavily, but he still got up to face Izuku's final attack. Die already, you f***ing housecat! Katsuki shouted, in which Izuku roared fiercely in response. Katsuki swung both of his hands together and created a giant explosion with a huge blast. Howitzer impact, Katsuki screamed. Izuku roared, and the smoke of the explosion cleared. Katsuki thought he finally did it, until Izuku rushed out of the smoke unscathed. Izuku grinned as he recalled how he quickly darted to the side, dodging Katsuki's final move, and came out of the smoke, using it as a cover to conceal himself. Roaring, Izuku pounced on top of Katsuki and landed with a thump. Katsuki was crushed under the weight of the giant lion, and was rendered unconscious due to Izuku knocking the wind out of Katsuki. Recovery Girl came around and handed out healing gummies to everyone. "Oh dear," she muttered when she came to Katsuki. She turned to face Izuku, who was still in lion form. "Boy, I thought I told you to go easy on these children. Honestly, you're almost as bad as All Might and Eraserhead." She scolded me roughly. "Now shift into something more useful so you can help me carry this boy back to my office." Yeesh. Recovery Girl can be scary sometimes. Izuku thought as he shifted forms directly into a large, fluffy snow leopard. Recovery Girl placed the limp Katsuki on Izuku's back, and she walked alongside the snow leopard as they made their way back to her office. Along the way, many examinees looked at Izuku with awe, adoration, or with slight fear. Even though he was a large snow leopard that could be very dangerous, Izuku looked cute. He had fluffy light grayish-white snowy fur with black/dark gray leopard spots and startling bright emerald eyes. And an even fluffier, plush tail that swished back and forth as he walked. And an even fluffier, plush tail that swished back and forth as he walked like this, just a bit bigger and maybe a little more fluffy. Some examinees reached out to brush his fur, which Izuku didn't protest. He didn't really mind, as it kind of was his duty to calm down the examinees after Izuku went all brutal on them. A small crowd soon developed, petting Izuku and adoring his fluffy yet muscular looks. When they arrived at Recovery Girl's office, she shooed all the uninjured examinees away and tended to Katsuki. Nizu-sensei arrived, along with Aizawa-sensei, and Izuku gave them the full report. Izuku was dismissed and told to stay up all night training with Aizawa at UA grounds before tomorrow, which was the first day of UA high school for first years like Izuku. Aizawa dragged Izuku over to the training grounds, much to his protest, and they began their rigorous training. They ended up sleeping together in their respective sleeping bags side by side under the night sky. Present Mike and Midnight saw this in the early morning and managed to take some pictures for a future use. No spoilers. When Izuku finally opened his eyes again and got up, it was the first day of school. Grinning to himself, Izuku got up and headed over to Class 1A, excited for the day to begin. Izuku entered Classroom 1A, just barely dragging himself through the door. The classroom was empty, as Izuku arrived 5 minutes before school even opened. Benefits of being the principal's prized student. Izuku whipped out his green sleeping bag from nowhere. Don't question it. Using the secret sleeping arts that Aizawa taught him, Izuku got in his sleeping bag. Secret sleeping arts advanced technique, gravity-defying snooze. Izuku then placed his hands to the ground, and felt the sleeping bag float to the ceiling. He then transformed into a kitten so he would be lighter and smaller. It's Kakashi. Just to activation, it's his advanced version of Mudwall BC, he has ninja hounds and all. But basically, it's some good Naruto SHT. Izuku looks like this. Or imagine him in a different way. If you don't like this, just remember he always has bright emerald green eyes in any form. Or imagine him in a different way. If you don't like this, just remember he always has bright emerald green eyes in any form. 137 In his newer, more comfortable form, Izuku quickly drifted into sleep, content. He didn't wake up as his classmates poured into the classroom. And they most certainly didn't notice him. Aizawa's POV. He's back, betches. I wait outside the door to Class 1A, waiting for them to notice me in my favorite special edition banana yellow sleeping bag. The students are just chatting away without a care, socializing. But they don't realize their cursed fate because I am their teacher. I grin slightly at the thought of the glorious hell I'm going to put them through. This is taking too long. Guess I'll have to get their attention. If you're going to just be socializing and fooling around, then leave now. The class turned towards the new voice and instantly quieted. I saw their expressions and knew what they were thinking. I've seen those expressions enough times to know they all are thinking, "I's a caterpillar. Creepy." Yeah, well, I happen to like caterpillars and I bet they take offense. I pull out my juice and sip it, earning another frightened expression from the class. It took you guys 5 seconds to quiet down, I say as I unzip my sleeping bag and exit the warmth, standing up to face the class. You guys are not practical enough. Welcome to UA Hero course, and I'm your homeroom teacher 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. I know it's sudden, put these on and meet me outside in the training field. I say as I take some P uniforms out of my sleeping bag's storage compartment and hand it to the round-faced girl. All of the kids have mostly regained their composure, until I say, "Oh, and Izuku, come down from there already." That technique is taxing because it's so advanced. All the students look to the ceiling and freeze, with expressions almost as shocked as when they saw me. What is that?" a dumb-looking Pikachu asked, pointing to the floating green sleeping bag that was currently pressed against the ceiling. "Is that another giant mutant caterpillar? It's an infestation." That's Izuku." I reply boredly. "Come on already Izuku, wake up." "Coming," a voice replies from the sleeping bag. The students froze. "It's alive," the round-faced girl stated, with the same shocked expression. The sleeping bag suddenly dropped to the ground abruptly and landed with a thump. "Ow." The voice, which I presume was Izuku, said. The opening zipped open to reveal a tiny kitten with bright emerald eyes and a tired expression. "What now, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏?" The kitten deadpanned, much to the surprise of the whole class. It talks?" a blue-haired boy questioned, shaking his arms robotically in a weird fashion. 𝗬𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. "I'm still in kitten form, aren't I?" Izuku the kitten looked up at 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, who nodded affirmative. "No cursing, Izuku." I reprimand him, but with zero motivation behind my words. Meanwhile, all the girls in the class are cooing over how cute the kitten is. A pink-skinned, pink-haired girl with horns takes a step towards Izuku, and I stop her. "Don't," I say. She looks at me, confused. He's about to transform back, and besides, he doesn't really react kindly to pets. I explain, subconsciously rubbing the scratches on my forearm. "I should know," I mutter to myself. Some mist pours off of Izuku, not unlike that of All Might's detransforming steam. The kitten grows, skin and clothing replacing fur, ears disappearing in a mop of long, green hair. Claws turn to fingers, and the tail is gone. In the kitten's place is Izuku, with a very tired expression, which is normal for him. "Yo," he says, earning even more shocked expressions. "Don't watch this GIF for too long or your eyes will bleed out like Mina's sticky ball." That sounded weird. "Don't watch this GIF for too long or your eyes will bleed out like Mina's sticky ball." That sounded weird. Izuku's POV back at it again. Takashi. Uraraka choked out, with Ida next to her giving Izuku a pained expression. "Sorry, no, that's not my name. My real name is Izuku Midoriya." I glance at 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, who gives me a nod. "Izuku, go ahead and explain your background to the class. That'll make it easier. Then we can go to the field. I'll go wait down there." 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 walked off to the said training field. "All right then." Izuku walked to the front of the class, and all the students gave him their attention. "I am Izuku Midoriya. I was quirkless for almost my whole life, until I discovered I actually had a quirk. My quirk was blocked due to certain barriers, and when I underwent hardcore training for a whole year, it allowed me to access my quirk and even break the limits. I met 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, who introduced me to Nizu sensei, the principal of this school. Nizu took me under his wing and made me his personal protege. I am also 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏's private protege, and they asked me to go undercover in the exams at UA to analyze and assess the examinees under a false pretense that I was their friend. Under said facade, I adopted a different personality and name, Kaito Takashi, and I used this fake identity to play my role in the exams as the final obstacle. Of course, I'm a highly recommended student, which is more prestigious than a regular recommended student. This is because Nizu and Aizawa technically recommended me, since my going to this school was a given, being their personal student. Bakugo's POV cursing ahead. You have been warned though cursing goes with Bakugo, so you already kind of know what you're getting into at this point. Katsuki woke up from his sleep. He had slept through the whole thing, because he thought it was a waste of time, and didn't even see Izuku transform. So when he opened his eyes to see his childhood friend, he was shocked, then pissed as hell. Oi, stupid 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧. What are you doing here? Katsuki yelled at Izuku, who winced. Catch Katsuki. Izuku addressed Katsuki, which surprised Katsuki, since Izuku always insisted on calling him by his childhood name, Kaken. Useless 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, why are you here? I'm a highly recommended student, Katsuki. You would have known if you weren't sleeping through my whole explanation. Izuku retorted, much to Katsuki's surprise. Izuku was never this confident before. Under his slight shock, Katsuki was very angry and pissed as hell. How dare that 𝗵𝗃 Deku stand in his way of becoming the #1 hero? And since when did he develop a quirk? Has that 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗧 Deku been hiding his quirk from Katsuki his whole life? That 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗧. Don't get in my way. Katsuki grabbed his uniform and walked angrily away towards the changing rooms. So what if Deku had a quirk, and maybe got a little taller and more buff? He was still just a pebble in Katsuki's path. Katsuki would teach that runt to not try to stand up to him, because he would always be better. 𝗵𝗃 Deku, Katsuki muttered. That's right. Just another useless pebble in his path. Not even worth his attention. Izuku's POV for a short bit. Like literally 2 or 3 sentences. Phew. That was a lot of explaining. I'm tired. Now let's just go. I'm tired. Izuku slumped forward, head hitting the podium he was standing behind. Is he okay? What happened? The class murmured amongst themselves. Todoroki's POV. Yay, finally. Todoroki Shoto, a dual-haired boy with a dual quirk, got up and checked on Izuku. He's fine. Todoroki stated. He's just sleeping. At that, the class breathed a sigh of relief and began to put on the PE uniforms. Todoroki was usually an aloof, emotionless boy, but Izuku Midoriya perked his interest for some reason. Maybe it was those bright green, intelligent eyes, or his peaceful, relaxed face as he slept. For some reason, Todoroki found Midoriya interesting and was intrigued by him and his abilities. Maybe Midoriya could be the one to rival Todoroki. Todoroki was always better than everyone else. He was exceptional, but much was expected of him. He always won everything, was the perfect model student, and was not only intelligent, but strong and had a rare, powerful quirk. He could never find someone to rival him, be it brains or brawn, yet Midoriya seemed to excel him in every way. Not to mention, Midoriya had a much different background than Todoroki. I will get to the bottom of his strength, Todoroki thought. Maybe he's Aizawa's secret love child. No matter what, I will surpass him and I will get to the bottom of his strength. The class, Midoriya and Todoroki included, went outside to meet Aizawa. Today we will be assessing your quirks. You've all taken physical exams, right? The class nodded yes in response. Aizawa turned to Midoriya. Izuku. Midoriya jolted to attention. Yes, sensei. Go stand in the circle. You know what to do on my signal. Midoriya obeyed, walking into the circle. Aizawa turned to the class. Midoriya's score without his quirk is 81 meters. Midoriya will now use his quirk in this test. Nodding to Midoriya, Aizawa gave him the signal to begin. Midoriya's arm transformed into a lion's arm, and while he had a paw, he also sort of had fingers to hold the ball. Midoriya stretched a little, then cocked back his arm and threw the ball with tremendous strength. Aizawa glanced at his tracker device, smirked, and showed it to the class. It read, 709. 56 meters. The school system still insists on taking physical tests without quirk usage. It's not practical in this age of quirks. You will be allowed to use your quirks on all of the fitness tests in order to understand your limits and what you can and can't do. Aizawa explained. Everyone started cheering about being able to use their quirks, and Aizawa got ticked off. You think this is a game? Fine. Aizawa grinned creepily. Whoever gets last place will be expelled. Wait. The whole class shouted, excluding Bakugo and Todoroki. This is the UA Hero course. We won't be accepting students with no potential. Aizawa says. He's not going to actually do it, right? A Pikachu-looking dude whispered. Is he for real? Another student murmured, an invisible one. Of course I can do it and I will do it. If you don't believe me, then ask Izuku here. Aizawa gestured towards Midoriya, who sweated a little. Aizawa-sensei is really harsh. He once expelled a whole class for not having potential. Midoriya was shaking slightly in fear at the thought of Aizawa's harsh teaching. He'll put you all through hell, you'll wish you were dead, Midoriya muttered in an undertone, and Todoroki only barely picked it up. Is Aizawa-sensei really that harsh and scary? Todoroki thought. No matter. I will not lose to Midoriya. This is my chance to see what he's made of. I will defeat him. Now, let's begin the quirk apprehension test. Aizawa grinned widely, as if he was having the best time of his life. I'll show you Midoriya. Todoroki looked at his left hand, and squeezed it into a tight fist. I will defeat you without using my left. His wretched power. Todoroki released his grip, and dropped his hand to his side, preparing himself for the tests. Just you wait. First up was the 50-meter dash with 𝗬𝗬𝗎𝗓 and Tenya Ida. As soon as it started, Ida zoomed ahead with his engines in his legs, gaining an impressive score of 3. For seconds. 𝗬𝗎𝗓 hopped along, earning a score of 5.58 seconds. Then Aoyama Yuga with Mina Ishido went, and a few other students later it was Bakugo and Izuku's turn. I see, so 𝗬𝗎𝗓 uses her frog-like qualities to hop along with her legs. Her quirk must be frog-related, or rather giving her the attributes of a frog. No visible weaknesses, but Ida, on the other hand, while incredibly fast, lacks other important qualities. I see many weaknesses that others can exploit, but with work they could easily strengthen themselves. And Aoyama's weakness is having to be the center of attention. Is he really fit for the job of a hero? Thinking about what it means to be a hero, everyone's answers are different. But Aoyama might struggle with his passion, and his quirk, while strong, has drawbacks that cannot be ignored. Izuku went on muttering, drawing the attention of all the students present. They just stared, thinking, scary? Hey, Deku, get your butt over here so I can beat you. Bakugo growled, then stomped over to the starting line. Izuku just looked at him with bored, tired eyes before following and standing behind the line. Start, said the robot machine, and Bakugo propelled himself forward with explosions, and flew towards the finish line. Explosive turbo speed, Bakugo shouted. What did I even expect? Of course, just because he got some DMN stupid quirk doesn't mean he's anywhere equal to me. Bakugo thought, grinning insanely, until he saw a blur shoot past him. It was a cheetah with green eyes. 2.89 seconds. The machine beeped pleasantly as the cheetah sped past it and then put its paws forward into a halt, making a dust cloud around it. 4.13 seconds, the machine responded again as Bakugo made it to the end. Everyone was praising Izuku as he shifted back into human form. Gritting his teeth, Bakugo dismissed this angrily. There were still other tests. That stupid nerd just got lucky. The tests went on, with Izuku dominating every event. Even during the grip strength evaluation, Izuku managed to beat Shoji's insane score of 540 kilograms by using his lion power and scoring 570 kilograms. Finally it came to the ball throw, and Bakugo was fed up. Winding up his arm, Bakugo threw the ball with impressive force, and sent it off with an incredible explosion. Die! He screamed. Unamused, Aizawa held up his machine, which read 705.2 meters. Wow! The class praised Bakugo, crowding around him. That's an insane score. Pikachu dude complimented. So manly. A spiky red-haired manly guy sobbed. Manly tears. Aizu Midoriya, Aizawa said, stopping himself from saying Izuku. Damn it, we're in school, I have to call him by his last name formally. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 what a pain. What references this readers do you know? Midoriya, Aizawa continued, it's your turn. Izuku nodded and stepped into the circle. Oh, and Midoriya, Aizawa added. If you but this again, then you'll be in a much worse hell than now. Aizawa grinned creepily, and Midoriya shuddered. What? He wasn't giving it his all. The class exclaimed in shock, and Izuku grimaced sheepishly. How did you know, Aizawa-sensei? Midoriya replied uneasily. Aizawa smirked. Of course I know when you're giving it your full strength and when you're not even trying. Aizawa said. After all, you take after me, Aizawa said in an undertone so no one would hear him. Now you'd better actually try or else. Izuku needed no more prompting. Harnessing his power, Izuku pulled back his arm and infused not just a lion's strength, but at the same time added a tiger's power and mixed them together. Izuku found out he could 𝗧𝗪𝙢𝗎 more than one cat at a time, except it was extremely hard and took lots of concentration. Narrowing his eyes in concentration, Izuku threw the ball with even more monstrous strength than he displayed before. The ball was moved forward so hard the students behind Izuku were blown back slightly by the tremendous shockwave and wind created from his throw. He broke the sound barrier 3 times. Aizawa saw the result on the machine and was slightly surprised, but quickly covered up his shock. Showing the machine to everyone else, it blinked, 11:59. 83 meters. Everyone was silent. Mineta and Pikachu's jaws were literally dropped all the way to the floor. Uraraka's eyes bulged out. Even Todoroki looked surprised. Welp, guess that wraps up the quirk apprehension test. Aizawa announced, bored. Bakugo was staring in shock at Izuku, but his surprise quickly morphed into rage. You f***ing 𝗧𝗪𝗓. You're supposed to just be a pebble in my path, you little 𝗧𝗓. Bakugo screamed in rage, charging at Izuku with his palms lit up with explosions. Aizawa readied his catching gear, but a knowing glance from Izuku stopped him. I see, Izuku. Okay then Brett. Aizawa thought to himself, and settled down and let Izuku handle the situation. As Bakugo lunged, Izuku simply sidestepped him, grabbed his arm and threw Bakugo to the ground all in one swift motion. Bakugo grunted in pain as his face met the dusty floor. You 𝗧𝗪𝗓. I'll f***ing kill you. Bakugo went on with his string of curses, and Izuku waited until his tirade slowed. Are you done? Izuku asked. Bakugo was about to respond, until Izuku cut him off. Good, you're done. My turn. Izuku looked at Bakugo, unimpressed, then took out his phone. With a few swift clicks, he arrived at Primal Instinct Izuku on Wattpad and scrolled through the comments. I'm not a pebble, I'm a f***ing boulder and I'm gonna roll you over like the little human you are. Izuku read. He looked up and faced the fourth wall. I couldn't have said it better, 𝗬𝗲𝗏. Izuku, what are you doing? We discussed this in chapter 1. Author San scolds him. Oh, quiet already. Don't waste your energy reprimanding me, Author San. We both know you're too lazy to do that. Fine. Carry on then, as long as you don't do it again. No promises. Turning to Bakugo, Izuku looked at him hard. Growling furiously, Bakugo opened his mouth to say something, but Izuku stopped him. No. Izuku interrupted Bakugo. Katsuki, I understand how you became what you became, due to everyone praising you and your quirk. But you need to accept that I'm simply stronger than you. I don't know why you stopped being my childhood friend, or why you started to bully me so harshly for being quirkless. Now I'm not the same Deku that you beat up in the hallways and after school in the alleys. I'm not the same Deku that you told to go take a swan dive off the roof. I am more powerful than you, and I'm just going to keep rising. Izuku got off of Bakugo's back, and Bakugo stood back up, brushing off the dust on his clothes. You'd expect the kid to be ashamed or remorseful, but Bakugo is different. His eyes glared at Izuku furiously, and Bakugo was fuming, but with Aizawa watching and being embarrassed by Izuku in front of the class, Bakugo just retreated to the corner. Well, Aizawa monotoned, breaking the silence and reminding everyone he was still there. You guys can do whatever for the last 20 minutes of school. I'm going to sleep now. Bye. Aizawa pulled out his sleeping bag from his scarf. He's the newer, better Mary Poppins and stepped inside, zipping it up behind him. He promptly fell asleep within seconds. Let's introduce ourselves, our name, our likes, our quirk, etc. 𝗧𝗏, the peppy pink one piped. The rest of the class agreed with the cheery Pinky, nodding in acknowledgement. Well then, since I already introduced myself earlier today anyway, I'm going to sleep too. Izuku walked over to Aizawa's unmoving caterpillar presence and pulled out his own green sleeping bag from somewhere. He too got into his sleeping bag, and after he was all cozied up, Izuku set himself down next to Aizawa and quickly fell asleep. He too got into his sleeping bag, and after he was all cozied up, Izuku set himself down next to Aizawa and quickly fell asleep. 170, so cute. Everyone thought as they saw the two cuddled up next to each other. Wait, Todoroki thought. Why did I say that with them? I usually don't participate in class, but I guess that is kinda cute the way Aizawa and Izuku are close. Izuku is especially adorable looking and very peaceful when he's sleeping. He should relax more. Todoroki thought to himself. Wait, what? Why did I think that? Maybe it's because Izuku is my rival and he's beating me in the cute department. That must be it. This is genius. I must train to be cute at home, so I can defeat my rival Izuku. Yes, that's right. The class went through their introductions, and by the time that Izuku woke up, everyone was finished. The kids started to pack up and leave school, and it looked like Uraraka wanted to go up to Izuku, but Ida stopped her and shook his head. They left together, which was fine by Izuku anyway because they were never his real friends. It was just an act. Besides, Izuku had training with Aizawa. Shuddering in fear of what Aizawa would put him through, Izuku followed Aizawa to their special training place in the forest behind UA to train. Thinking back on all of his fellow classmates' performance, Izuku reminded himself to analyze the students and their quirks with Nizu-sensei later during one of their lessons. There was no one who particularly stood out to Izuku, except for that white/red-haired kid. Todoroki, yes, that was his name. He was rather interesting, and Izuku was intrigued as to why Todoroki wouldn't use his other part of his dual quirk, as Izuku understood he had ice and fire. But Izuku had a strange feeling, other than fascination. What was this feeling he had towards Todoroki? Izuku wanted to help him overcome whatever trauma Todoroki had. Izuku understood just how horrible a father Endeavor was, from reports he saw with Aizawa and Nizu, and observing Todoroki's behavior. Yeah, I probably just want to help him out. Izuku thought, reassuring himself. That's all. It's understandable because I hate Endeavor, and I somewhat understand the torment that Todoroki probably had been going through and still likely is. Come on, problem child, we have a lot of training to do. Aizawa flashed his signature grin, and Izuku flashed one of his own, Aizawa creepy grins. Yep, da Aizawa. Izuku covered. Oops. I almost slipped there again and called him Dad. Nice save, he probably didn't notice. Yeah, Izuku, you wish. Aizawa noticed Izuku's slip-up, alright. But strangely, Aizawa didn't mind it one bit. HYA! Izuku shouted, throwing a strong punch at Aizawa. Spinning his scarf around Izuku's arm, Aizawa pulled Izuku to the side and stepped away. Come on, problem child. Use your training. Aizawa taunted, earning another attack from Izuku. When Aizawa suggested that Izuku learn how to master his scarf capture techniques, Izuku didn't know that this is what it would be. Concentrating, Izuku stepped back and allowed himself to relax. He let the scarf rise and spin around him majestically, and then looked back at Aizawa triumphantly. Aizawa merely smirked, and his own scarf raised in challenge. The two began a battle between the scarves 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝐵𝗲𝗄𝐵 song, and both scarves whipped violently at each other. Aizawa and Izuku fought around each other, using their fists, feet, and scarves, and it looked like a majestic dance of martial arts and scarf arts. Aizawa and Izuku fought around each other, using their fists, feet, and scarves, and it looked like a majestic dance of martial arts and scarf arts. I'm sorry I had Tio. Just one more. I can't even, I'm done. Sorry, not sorry. The two broke apart, panting heavily and slicked in sweat, though Izuku more than Aizawa. You're getting better, kid, Aizawa panted. Pretty soon I'll enter this and beat your lazy butt, Aizawa. Izuku challenged fiercely. Aizawa grinned. The match isn't yet over, kid. Izuku spun around, but it was too late. Aizawa's scarf grabbed him and wrapped him into a mummy with a green tuft on the top. Izuku protested angrily, but to no avail. I did say you're getting better, but you still have a ways to go, problem child. Aizawa said as he unwrapped Izuku's mummified state. I guess you're right. Thanks, Dad. Izuku said. Dad. Izuku screamed in his head. I called him Dad. Izuku quickly scrambled away from Aizawa and shifted into a cheetah, then sped away with his newfound speed. I gotta get out of here before I embarrass myself any further, Izuku thought, screaming at himself internally. Izuku glanced back, only to see Aizawa chasing after him, jumping from tree to tree and occasionally swinging along the branches with his scarf, like a freakin' Tarzan. 𝗬𝗧𝗏, Izuku. No cursing. Only 𝗵𝘃𝗲 can do that. Author San wails. Sorry. Izuku apologized. Under his breath, he muttered, hypocrite. I tried really hard to find a good Naruto pic of jumping along trees, but I failed. I tried really hard to find a good Naruto pic of jumping along trees, but I failed. This is all I could come up with. Sorry. Aizawa, while fast, was no match for a cheetah's speed. Unfortunately, Aizawa recognized this and activated his quirk. With his cheetah form being ripped away by Aizawa's erasure so suddenly, Izuku tumbled and scrambled desperately to get back on his feet. Aizawa quickly came down on him with a dropkick, and Izuku bit the dirt literally. Coughing up dust, Izuku looked fearfully at Aizawa, whose long hair covered his face so Izuku couldn't see his expression. Aizawa-sensei, I really didn't mean to call you Dad. I slipped up because, Izuku stuttered, trying to speak. His stuttering shocked him, since he rarely ever stuttered these days. You see, my dad was never there for me. I never met him, and my mom always told me that he was overseas, doing important work, and would come back soon. He never did. Izuku cleared his throat. He died. You are like the dad that I never had. I'm sorry, I won't call you that again. It was an honest mistake. I'm sorry. Izuku dropped his head, still on the ground. He waited for Aizawa's punishment. Instead, he felt a warm hand be placed on his shoulder. Kid, you're like a son to me. It makes me happy that you called me Dad, Aizawa said, which caused Izuku to look up at him in shock. Aizawa, Izuku trailed off. But that doesn't mean I'll go easy on you. Aizawa smirked, showing off his real classy 𝗧𝗏𝗍 grin. I know you never would. Izuku returned the smile with one of his own equally 𝗧𝗏𝗍 grins. The two then called it a day and jogged back to UA campus so Izuku could meet with Nizu for his daily lesson on intelligence, deception, blackmail, and other useful skills. Glad they got their priorities straight. Nizu only teaches the most important skills. Little did the duo know that they were being watched. Now I know what you're thinking. Wouldn't they be able to tell if they were being watched? Of course they would be, but they were distracted. It just so happens that the people who happened to be watching them were Present Mic and Midnight. And of course, both heroes always had their phones on them. And they were just lucky to catch the 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 fluff on video. Now they had a lot of good blackmail on Aizawa. Finally, the days of being tricked into paying for meals and drinks by Aizawa were over. They finally had leverage over their sneaky friend. The two giggled and scuttled away, plotting their evil plans for Aizawa, which involved a makeover for him and maybe a pretty pink princess dress. Aizawa and Izuku are training in the woods for Aizawa's scarf technique. Izuku accidentally calls Aizawa Dad, resulting in a series of events that lead to an extreme 𝗓𝗏𝗍𝗵𝗲, in which, unbeknownst by the pure duo, Midnight and Present Mic were hiding in the bushes and managed to take pictures of the extreme 𝗓𝗏𝗍𝗵𝗲. Midnight and Present Mic hatch a plan to later use the extreme 𝗓𝗏𝗍𝗵𝗲 as blackmail against Aizawa for anything. Izuku and Aizawa walk back to UA. The above events took place after school. We start the next day, when a new day of school at UA High School begins. Izuku was dragged to UA early by Aizawa, who insisted on a little morning training session, which was basically Aizawa kicking Izuku's butt. Izuku again worked on perfecting Aizawa's scarf technique, and he managed to get the basics down, although he needed to learn all the different techniques. Currently, Izuku contemplated the different ways he could utilize his basic skills. though Aizawa told him that he wouldn't be able to use the scarf until he mastered it completely. Izuku had no choice but to comply. He knew better than to argue with Aizawa. Izuku, deep in thought, began to unconsciously mutter, which was even more scary because he was currently in his green sleeping bag, slouched over his desk. All the students saw was a highlighter green caterpillar that was muttering creepily. Izuku was suddenly brought out of his deep muttering and thoughts from a small poke to his side. He heard 𝗓𝗓. It stopped, which caused Izuku to unzip himself, step out, stuff his sleeping bag into the inside compartment of his desk, and give a tired glance at the students surrounding him. Uraraka held a long meter ruler and was clenching it tightly in front of her as if to protect herself. Ida's arms swung up and down rapidly as if he couldn't comprehend what just happened. Even Todoroki, who was sitting in his desk calmly, had an intrigued expression on his face, with a little bit of interest. "What?" Izuku said in a monotone, bored voice, which broke everyone out of their shock. "And nothing, Midoriya," the class muttered, avoiding Izuku's gaze. "Arun," author-san announced, causing Izuku to give them a disgusted look. Izuku glared at author-san. "How dare you mimic the bell? You have broke a sacred vow of authors by intervening in the story and mimicking the bell. Are you making light of the bell's job? Are you mocking the bell?" Author-san held up their hands in mercy. "Please, Izuku," the bell took a vacation. "I was running out of options, so I had to." Izuku just the author-san another disgusted face, and then turned away from the fourth wall. What was that just now? The whole class thought, sweat dropping. Anyway, I guess this means present mixed English class is next. Izuku marched out the door, and after processing Izuku's weirdness, the class followed. Finally, it came to All Might's class. "I am here coming through the door like a normal person," All Might announced, and the class cheered. "Wow, is that his Silver Age costume?" Denki remarked. "All Might really is our teacher. This is awesome." Mina cheered. Izuku just looked away, disinterested. After all, this man was no hero. He nearly shattered Izuku's dreams of becoming a hero, and judging from All Might's lack of reaction upon seeing Izuku doubted that All Might even remembered who Izuku was. "Meet me at Ground Beta for special hero battle training lessons." All Might laughed his signature, booming laugh. And of course, every hero must have a costume. All Might booms, ushering students towards the changing rooms, handing them their locker numbers, where their costumes are stored. Passing by All Might, Izuku snatches his number away from All Might without so much as a glance towards the number 1 pro hero. As Izuku walks away, All Might watches him leave, shocked and surprised. "I am the number 1 hero, All Might. Everyone in Japan knows my name, and practically all aspiring heroes worship me." All Might thought to himself, incredulous at Izuku's behavior. Yet why does this boy not treat me with the same adoration? Why is he not even neutral, but even uninterested and possibly annoyed with me? Dumbfounded, All Might brushed away his confusion and strode off to the training ground. After all, he had a class to teach. Almost all the students were done changing, and they complimented and commented on each other's costumes. "Hey, wait, where's Takashi no Midoriya?" Uraraka stumbled over her words, obviously still feeling the effects of Midoriya's deception. "I've been here the whole time." A voice came out of nowhere, startling Uraraka and Ida, who immediately whipped their heads around to see where Midoriya was. "Come on guys, I'm right here." They turned to see Midoriya squatting on top of a street lamp, observing the scene calmly and somewhat boredly. With a graceful hop, Izuku landed on the ground lightly. "You guys take too long." Izuku said to no one in particular. Izuku's costume consisted of a dark jumpsuit with a utility belt around his waist, which was exactly like Aizawa's, with a few slight differences. He wore a face mask that covered his mouth and most of his nose, and Izuku had 2 katanas strapped crisscross to his back ninja style and 1 long sword strapped to his hip. All swords were sheathed. From his utility belt hung a small handgun with a spare ammo magazine, 2 different knives, a grappling hook, and other essentials. Izuku wore black fingerless gloves that had metal plating, and also had metal platings on his elbows, shoulders, knees and shins. Finally, Izuku wore black soundless boots with steel tips. His costume was not plain, but was not too flashy, and would be especially unnoticeable in the cover of Night. However, many students came up to him and complimented his costume. All Might arrived and began to explain the activity. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, so this will be a short summary. As All Might was explaining, a student raised their hand and blurted out a question. Other students too bombarded the number one hero with questions. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, I can only answer one question at a time, guys. All Might chuckled good-naturedly and continued. After he was done explaining, All Might held up a small box which beeped to life and projected a holographic image of the team matchups. It went like this. Team A, Izuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki. Team B, Hagakure Toru and Mashiro Ojiro. Team I, Ochako Uraraka and Momo Yaoyorozu. Team D, Katsuki Bakugo and Mineta Minoru. Team H, Tsuyu Azui and Mizo Shoji. Team J, Kyuka Jairu and Denki Kaminari. Team G, 𝗧𝗪𝙁 Kirishima and Tokoyami Fumikage. Team C, Mina Ishido and Koji Koda. If I'm missing anyone, but I'm lazy and at this point I don't care anymore, and neither do you probably. All Might announced that the following teams would be facing off. Team A vs Team D. Team D as the villains. Team B versus Team J. Team J as the villains. Team G versus Team I. Team I as the villains. Team C versus Team H. Team H as the villains. Alright then, young heroes. Let's begin with Team A versus Team D first. The rest of you who aren't fighting yet, come with me to the monitor room to watch the fight. All Might led the other students away, and only Izuku, Todoroki, Bakugo and Mineta remained. I'll kick your f***ing butt, Deku. Bakugo snarled, then turned towards the purple ball-haired student. If that even is hair, and you. Bakugo growled threateningly. If you interfere, I'll kill you so hard you'll die. Bakugo marched off angrily towards the building, with Mineta scurrying frightened behind him, from a safe distance of course. Todoroki gave a sideways glance at Bakugo, then turned his attention to Izuku. Normally, Shoto would ignore his teammate, or tell them to not interfere and stay out of his way, but this was Izuku. For some strange reason, Shoto had no longing to brush Izuku off or dismiss him coldly. No pun intended. Surprising even himself, Shoto turned to Izuku. What's our plan? Izuku smirked, which strangely made Shoto's heart skip a beat. Must be adrenaline for the battle, Shoto thought. I have a plan. Izuku grinned. And Katsuki and Mineta will stand no chance. After Izuku finished explaining his plan to Todoroki, the dual-haired boy nodded in affirmative. They were already within the building, and were waiting for All Might's cue to start. You know, Todoroki said, you really are amazing. Izuku immediately felt a light blush tint his face. Todoroki went as red as the left half of his hair. I mean, your planning and problem-solving skills are impressive, Todoroki sputtered, trying to cover up his mistake. Why yeah, thanks. Izuku replied. Start. All Might's voice boomed from the loudspeakers, making Izuku and Todoroki jump a little. Come on, let's go. Izuku nodded in agreement, and the two boys headed off into the corridors. Alright, Katsuki should be coming out any moment now, Izuku said. He knew Katsuki wouldn't work together with Mineta, and would instead rush off to find Izuku. He remembered his conversation with Todoroki, when they were discussing the plan. Katsuki will come for me immediately, because he wants to beat me up. Izuku had explained. That's when we'll start phase 1 of the plan, where you create a blockade of ice and run up to get the bomb, while I'll take care of Katsuki. No, leave Bakugo to me. Todoroki argued, and Izuku looked at him quizzically. I have something I need to ask him. All right if you say so. Izuku, while resistant, had known better than to question the boy's motives and strength, not to mention the unwavering conviction in his heterochromia eyes. An explosion shook Izuku out of the past. He's coming. Get ready, Izuku warned Todoroki, who adopted a defensive stance, a chilly aura swirling around his right side. Deku! Bakugo roared, and smashed through the ceiling with an explosive punch. Bakugo rocketed down towards Izuku, with his right fist extended and bursting with mini combustions, ready to smash Izuku into the cement ground. Unfazed, Izuku merely sidestepped and grabbed 𝗵𝗃𝗲's wrist at the split second before 𝗵𝗃𝗲 crashed into the floor, so he couldn't get away. Harnessing lion strength, Izuku spun 𝗵𝗃𝗲 and threw him to the floor. Izuku hopped away, and before 𝗵𝗃𝗲 could get up, Todoroki created a thick wall of ice between them. Hurry and go. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 will be getting up soon, and he won't stop until he gets to you. Todoroki shouted over his shoulder, and Izuku dashed away. Grunting, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 stood up and smashed the ice barrier with an explosive fist. That 𝗵𝗃𝗲 thinks he can run away. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 steamed. Out of the way, 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Todoroki narrowed his eyes. If you want Midoriya, you'll have to go through me first. Fine by me. I'll beat you up first, and then I'll kill that Demon Deku. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 grinned wildly, explosions igniting in his palms. Todoroki's POV, in case you hadn't noticed, I was shifting towards this anyway so far. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 hasn't proven himself that much of a challenge. Sure, he's powerful but nothing particularly notable, and with his temper and attitude, he'd make a better villain than hero. Todoroki, I found the bomb. It's on the 4th floor. Midoriya's voice spoke in my ear. Most would describe his voice as tired, bored, and monotone, but I found a comfort in it. His voice, while not low or deep, had a lower undertone to it that soothed me and gave him confidence. 𝗵𝗃𝗲. What are you grinning silly for? Fight me. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 screamed. Alright, got a little lost in my thoughts there. I said to myself. Pressing my earpiece to speak, I replied, copy. Good work, to Midoriya, and then turned my attention back to 𝗵𝗃𝗲, who was currently powering up and preparing to come at me again. Die. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 screamed again, launching himself at me, and I simply shot a column of ice towards him. He dodged and rushed towards me. I dodge his explosive punch, and encasing my fist in ice, I deliver a harsh blow to his stomach, blowing him back a couple of feet. What do you have against Midoriya? I question the explosive boy. You guys are childhood friends, right? Midoriya unconsciously flinches slightly when he saw you try to punch him. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 gets angrier at the question, if that even is possible, considering the boy was already extremely furious. We were childhood friends, dumbass. He's just a quirkless loser. He always has been and always will be. I frowned slightly. But Midoriya has a quirk. And besides, that doesn't explain why he flinched. Shut up. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 interrupts me, then takes a few paces back, confusing me. What is he doing? I wonder. He has a close combat quirk. If close range attacks don't work, then I'll just have to SW usage tactics. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 crouches and holds up one of his arms. If they made these like I asked them, then they should have nitroglycerin stored inside, stocked up. His quirk allowed him to create explosions out of his nitroglycerin like sweat, but if his gauntlets were filled with nitroglycerin, then he could ignite it. Suddenly it dawned on me. I glance up, but it's too late. Young 𝗵𝗃𝗲, don't do that. You'll kill him. All Might's worried voice boomed from the speakers. He won't die. It'll just make sure he doesn't get back up. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 grabbed the pin and pulled it. Die. He screamed. You literally just said that I won't die, and then you shout, die, at me. He's underestimating me. I release a tremendous amount of ice, and the explosion and my ice meet, causing icy wind and flickers of embers to fly from the collision point. Gritting my teeth in concentration, I push my ice to the limits, and slowly, my ice begins to freeze over the explosion blast. Arf! 𝗵𝗃𝗲 roars, but it's futile. I froze his explosion, leaving a giant explosive blast encased in ice. I place my palm on it and it melts. The explosion inside has cooled down and is released in a harmless puff of smoke. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 just stands there, shocked, and I open my mouth once more. What happened between you and Midoriya? Looking up at me with his bloodshot eyes, he regains his composure. Why do you care so much about that Demon Deku? I say nothing and 𝗵𝗃𝗲 smirks. Like I said, he was a quirkless loser, so I made sure he knew his place. I simply made sure he understood he was nothing, and I occasionally reminded him of this once in a while. He stares me down, still wearing his taunting grin. His face tells me all I need to know. I understand why I recognize the pain in Midoriya's eyes, no matter how hard he tries to conceal it, and why I had a foreboding feeling when Midoriya flinched at the sight of Bakugo, and when I saw faint, old scars along his body when he was changing in the locker room. Rage envelopes me as my past comes rushing back to me. I rasp, my voice hoarse and tense, my eyes to the floor. Bakugo cocks his head to the side and gives me a devilish grin. You say something. I slowly lift my head, my hair covering my eyes. You hurt Midoriya. Those scars, they were burn scars. Like mine? I silently say to myself. So. Bakugo taunts me. My eyes meet his, and under my scrutinizing glare, Bakugo looks taken aback. You'll pay for what you've done to him. I hiss, my demeanor no longer calm and collected. I find myself with a rage, with burning fury. I embrace it. For one glorious moment, fear paints itself across Bakugo's face. He takes a step back, his arms and legs shaking slightly. What are you gonna? He trails off, his face paling. I swiftly dart forward, sliding across the ice that I create as I go. I feel a few embers of fire flicker from my left side, responding to my fury, but I snuff them out. Revenge is a delicacy best served cold. I snarl, both to him and myself. And cold was something only my mother could help me with. Within moments I'm right up close to Bakugo's face, and I smash my fist into his face. He stumbles backwards and I kick him in between his legs. He chokes on his pain. This is for Midoriya. I hiss into his ear and I punch him once more. This time, my fist stays on his body, and only too late does he realize what is happening. Wait, Bakugo stutters and shudders, though I can't tell if it is from fear or the cold. Ice climbs across his body, starting slowly, but quickly advancing up to his neck. He strains his neck, pulling his head away from the spreading frost, but in vain. Please, he chokes out, and a rebel tear dashes across his face. This breaks me out of my trance. The ice ceases its advance. I look at what I've done, but I'm not sorry. He deserved it for hurting Midoriya. Sorry. I spit the words out, like they taste disgusting. I begin to walk away, and before I round the corner and walk up the stairs, I give one glance back at Bakugo. He looks like he's about to 𝗧𝗃 his pants, if he hasn't already. The corridor is in shambles, with gaping holes from explosions and ice chunks stuck to the sides of the walls, floor, and even roof. So much for keeping damage to a minimum. Sorry, All Might. I mutter, and then I round the corner. Midoriya, I think to myself as I hurry up the steps. You were hiding so much pain, suffering, and betrayal behind your eyes just like I am. Gritting my teeth in pain from one of Bakugo's blasts, I grip my arm, a bruise already blooming. I understand you. Which is why I'll protect you. That way, at least I can protect you if I can't defend myself from my father. With a newfound resolve, I rush up the stairs, to the 4th floor, where Izuku reported that the bomb was located. Wait for me, Izuku. I'm coming. Izuku's POV right after he left Todoroki finally. I peer at the bomb from behind a corner. Sure enough, just as I thought, Mineta was guarding the bomb. At least I thought he was. Why me? Why did I have to get teamed up with Bakugo against 2 of the top 3 strongest in our class? Mineta wailed, letting his tears flow. I only wanted to peep at the girls and check out their amazing BO. Okay, that's enough. I interrupt the purple perv, marching out of my hiding place. Mineta turns my way in surprise. He rubs his wide eyes, confused. Todoroki, I found the bomb. It's on the 4th floor. I report to Todoroki through our radio connection. Copy. Good job. Todoroki's voice came back into my earpiece. I jumped, slightly startled. It was weird to hear his soft, reassuring voice in my ear. Hey Midoriya, Mineta says, bringing me out of my thoughts. Yeah. Why are you blushing? I'm blushing. Wait, I'm blushing. Midoriya, Mineta suddenly gets a super pervy look on his face more than usual. Are you thinking about how huge the girls boo? No. I reply bluntly. Mineta looks at me disbelievingly, but I ignore it. The purple-headed pervert can think what he wants about me. I don't care what he thinks. I mean, look at him. He looks like the rip-off pervert version of Stewie from Family Guy. Whatever. I don't care what a perverted, dehydrated prune thinks. I stated matter-of-factly. Mineta sputtered, trying to find his words. Finally, he came up with, I'm a grape, not a prune. And I am not dehydrated. So you aren't denying the perverted part, huh? Well, I mean, but that's, I lift an eyebrow. Mineta got a nosebleed. I can only imagine why, which I really don't want to imagine. Alright, I've had enough fooling around with you, Mineta, I say. Now the battle begins. I quickly dart towards him, and before he can react, my foot lashes out and kicks him in his scrawny chest, causing him to fly backwards and hit the wall. Oops. I tried to limit my power a lot so I wouldn't accidentally kill you, but I guess you're just too small and light and airborne. I scratch the back of my head sheepishly. Mineta groans, pulling himself off of the wall. I hum and say, you should have stayed down. You're just buying yourself more pain. Mineta slowly walks towards me, and I let my fighting stance drop. He's not a threat, after all. Defeat is inevitable. You're just dragging this out. Katsuki is not going to miraculously come barging in here to save your butt, if that's what you're buying time for. I should know he doesn't do friends. I grimace at the memories of Katsuki's friendship to me. I can fight too, you know. I'm not just a pervert. Mineta's declaration surprised me a little, causing me to look up or down, 'cause he's small at him. Looking me dead in the eye, Mineta had a fierce resolve shown in his face. I grin, thinking that maybe I misjudged him, and that he isn't just a weakling after all. I'm not just a pervert, I'm a pervert that will become a hero. In order to become popular with the girls, I must succeed. Mineta proclaimed proudly. I just look at him. Well, at least you have a conviction to become a hero, I guess. Even if your reasoning isn't that heroic. I deadpan. Don't underestimate my resolve. My reason to become a hero may be lousy to you, but my dream is to touch Yaya Rose's ample B. Okay, please don't finish that sentence. I've been trying to stop you from saying that word the best I can, but I stop, looking at Mineta's sudden evil grin. I see he. Mineta giggled creepily. I've figured out your weakness, Midoriya. I look at him, astonished. He figured out my weakness. I didn't even know I had one. What is my weakness, then, Mineta? I ask, genuinely curious. He grinned again. I'll tell you. It's 𝗵𝗃𝗏. I cry out, falling on my knees and covering my ears. I can't believe it. My greatest weakness is that I'm innocent. I can't even hear or say or think the word BBA. How could I have such oversight? How could I have overlooked this crucial detail? I cry out in despair, shaking my fist to the sky, or in this case, the roof, and look upward. Why have you cursed me with this ridiculous innocence, heavens? I turn to the fourth wall. Author, why did you make this my weakness? Couldn't it have at least been something like monsters or dragons? First of all, Izuku, you've broken the fourth wall repeatedly. It's getting tiring trying to fix it, and I'm getting tired of writing it. Also, I bet the readers are tired of reading you breaking the fourth wall all the time. Author San scolds Izuku. Now, shut up and do what I write you to do. Haha. Mineta laughs again. Your weakness is my pleasure. But don't despair yet, Midoriya. After all, girls find innocent guys like you cute. I should know, I've spent the majority of my life studying them. Creep alert much, Mineta. I croak out, lifting open one of my eyes. Don't think that you'll defeat me so easily, Mineta interrupts me with another BOO, in which I cover my ears and close my eyes again to stop myself from hearing that wretched word. A few moments pass. I open my eyes and look around, confused. Mineta is standing above me. I try to get up and punch him, but my movements are sluggish and resistant. Wait a second. I look at my arms and legs, in which I find that Mineta's sticky purple ball are holding down my limbs. I try to shift, and it almost works, until Mineta pulls off more of his ball and reinforces my restraints. I try to move, but I can't. I strain against my restraints in frustration, but to no avail. Knowing that I've been defeated by Mineta, I should probably give him more credit. I outwitted you, Midoriya. How pathetic. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 crows, taunting me and parading around my limp body proudly. Huff huff 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, someone says. Try to turn my head to see who, but I can't. I made it 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, and you don't have to worry, because I've got your back. I know that voice now, it's 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 exclaims. Bakugo didn't defeat you. What do you think? 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 responded sharply. He turned his attention to me. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, you're incredibly strong. How was 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 able to defeat you? 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 asked with slight surprise in his voice. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, he is very perceptive. He figured out my weakness. I trail off, ashamed. Weakness? 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 asked quizzically. Who? 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 chuckled. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's weakness is his innocence. I was able to put him out of action with even just the smallest mention of B. No. I howled. The pay-in. So what you're saying is that the slightest mention of B.O., sorry 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. As I was saying, the slightest mention of that sort of thing causes 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 pain. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 asked. And now, with just 20 seconds left, all I need to do is stall you guys. Ha. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 laughed. Oh shoot, he's right, we only have 20 seconds left. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 hurry. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 was unresponsive. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, you're causing 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 pain. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏's voice was dark and dangerous. No one causes 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 pain. I vowed to protect him. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 rushed at 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, who squeaked in fear, suddenly remembering that he was facing one of the strongest students in their class. For 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 yelled his battle cry, which was just 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's name and made 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 into a mind cube of ice. See what I did there? Play on words? 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 turned back to me, but I shook my head. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏, there's no time to free me. Secure the bomb first. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 looked like he wanted to protest, but decided against it and ran over to the bomb. He placed his hand on it, securing our victory. Hero team wins. All Might sounded over the speakers. Come meet us in the monitoring room to discuss the battle. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 unfroze 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 and had him remove my sticky restraints, then helped me up. Thanks, 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏. He nods, acknowledging me. Say, you were going on about protecting me. What was that about? I ask, confused. He smiles, something that I never saw before. His smile was so bright and warm, you would never guess he had an ice quirk. Let's just say that we've had similar past experiences, and I want to protect you. I learned a little about your past from Bakugo. My expression darkened when I heard Katsuki's name. You won't judge me, will you? For being quirkless most of my life. And bullied and picked on, and, of course not. I respect you, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. And I'd like to make sure you're protected and safe. Can I walk you home from school today? 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 asked with a reassuring face. How could I say no? Sure, 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏. Thank you. And together, we walked out of the building, but this time, our shoulders brushed ever so slightly, and we didn't flinch away from the touch.